Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. I'm your host, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, sensuality consultant, sex educator, and life coach. I'm going to talk today about one of my favorite subjects, and that is sex tools and toys. Now, many of the things that I'm talking about actually have their origins in ancient societies. So let's just jump right in and see why these things that were invented over 2,000 years ago remain today as sources of pleasure and benefit to humankind. So, the first thing I want to talk about is a little tool called Benoit balls. Benoit balls are about the size of marbles, and they're 24 karat gold plated. Well, most of them are stainless steel on the inside. They are relatively heavy, and they are placed about an inch and a half up inside the vagina. When the vagina is not excited, it's collapsed and semi-dry. So when you first put them in, they'll stay in place with very little effort on your part. But then the woman starts to do Kegel exercises, which is to squeeze and relax the PC muscle that surrounds the vagina. And within 2 minutes or so, the balls start to slip down and out because the vaginal entry is wetter and more relaxed. Now, you have to have these in while you're standing or sitting so that gravity is constantly pulling them down. Originally, Benoits were invented in ancient China, and they were only used by the wealthiest families because original Benoits were solid gold or solid silver. Today's Benoits are a little bit less expensive, a whole lot less expensive, but still as viable as they were then. Now, they were invented back in the day out of necessity, because if you were one of 30 wives of one of the higher ups, one of the lords of the land, and you had sex with someone else, that could get you killed. So you could have sex with your husband maybe once a year, and him having sex with you just out of obligation because you were one of his wives, not his favorite. And so to keep yourself sane and to make sure that there were orgasms in your life, they invented and they found out that using weighted little balls inside the vagina would actually increase the tension inside the vagina. Now, that was then, and it worked really, really well. But today, actually, Benoit balls are recommended by sex therapists and by gynecologists for women who have had two or more children, especially if they've had them vaginally. They are a weight resistance tool to help bring the vagina back to its pre-pregnancy tightness and strength. And if you are someone that pees when she laughs or coughs or sneezes, that's a great indicator that your pelvic floor is weak. Unlike all the other muscles in the body, though, the pelvic floor has the fastest recuperative power out of any muscle in the body. And if you decided to do this exercise, either with the Benoits or without, but with the Benoits, it's going to work a lot faster, in very short time, that pelvic floor would rise back up and be just as strong and viable. Now, a lot of doctors don't know anything about Benoit balls. All they know is about the pessary, which they would put in and charge you a lot of money to do, or a surgery. And those things make the money. Depends, for those people who are leaking or some kind of other pad. But one set of Benoits will last you for a lifetime. And as long as you just wipe them off, keep them clean, and keep them in the little either silver box that they come in, or some of them come in a little pouch like this, they will stay good for years and years and years. And you can use them every day. Another invention that was invented thousands of years ago is the love swing. Now, the picture on the introductory picture for this episode is a girl sitting in a love swing. Originally, the love swing was invented for the royalty of India. And so, he would have her in the swing, and he needed an assistant to kind of keep her balanced so he could do his thing with her. And the material of the love swing was very uncomfortable, very rough, and it just didn't work out at that time because of the materials, and also the fact that there was other people in the room, so you really couldn't enjoy yourself as freely and as openly as you wanted to. Today's love swings are made out of the best materials. They can hold up to 350 pounds of person. They have a spring mechanism at the top. So if you want to have a little bouncing action, you can, or you could take the spring mechanism off and then just have the movement of the person back and forth on the swing. I tell you, another thing that's really excellent for a person using a love swing is that, if a woman is on top of the guy and she wants to move herself up and down on his shaft, it can really be very taxing to your quadriceps. Or if you're overweight, all of these things are very, very taxing on your body. And at one point, all you could think about is how much your quads are burning or your legs cramp up or whatever. Well, if you have a love swing, none of that is a matter of a problem at all, because with a swing, you have definitely defied gravity, and you can find yourself in all kinds of phenomenal positions and really enjoy the freedom that comes with a love swing. Then there are dildos. Now, dildos are different than vibrators, and dildos have been around since ancient Egypt. They have found dildos in the burial sites with royalty. So, people needed to have sex, and or at least sexual pleasure, and if their lover, husband, could not or was not available, again, it was sort of frowned upon to have sex with other people. So, they had to occupy themselves with something that was a little bit more inert, but definitely got the job done. So dildos come in all different sizes, all different materials. Today, they are made out of silicone. Some of them are made out of smooth, polished wood. Others are made out of glass, and they can heat up really, really well and really do a great job of reaching all the hot spots inside the vagina. And you never have to worry about it coming too fast, because it won't. Then there is the French Tui. So the French Tui, also called a magic carpet, and you notice there's little nubs, okay? And then there's this little clef here, and there's a little pointer there, okay? So this is something that is worn on the penis. And so his penis goes through here, and then he's inside of her. And these nubs stimulate the entire pubic area. So when you first start with this, you start with the cleft up, and as the person is moving themselves back and forth, the whole venous mons is getting stimulated, plus the little shaft here is opening up the lips that surround the clitoris to get direct clitoral stimulation. Now, once that clit gets very excited, it actually backs up into the body. That's when you can take the Tui and flip it around and let the tail go deeper in past the lips right to the head of the clitoris. It is absolutely essential to use a lubricant with this, because rubbing back and forth on a dry pubis with one of these on would be extremely uncomfortable. So a good silicone lube, which will last and last, or a good water-based lube, whatever floats your boat, but make sure you're using a good quality lube that will last for as long as you need it. Of course, you can add a little bit more as you're going on, but those nubs stimulate the whole pubic area, and the tail or the cleft open up the area that protects the clitoris and goes for direct clitoral stimulation. Now, this is particularly nice for men who are not really well endowed. I mean, it's nice if you're an inch and a half, an inch and three quarters, that sort of, inch and a half is sort of the average size. But if you're, say, a 1¼ inch or even a little smaller than that, it's difficult to actually stimulate the clitoris because it's really the shaft that's doing the stimulation on the clitoris. So with this, you add a little enhancement to what you already have, and you can definitely hit all the right spots with a French 2E. And then there are vibrators. Now, vibrators are definitely not as old as the Benoit balls, the Love Swing, or the 2E, but they were invented by doctors back in the day when women were going to the doctor for what was diagnosed as hysteria. So hysteria was the fact that a woman was having sex with her husband back in Victorian times, and he would climb on top and he would take care of his business in less than a minute and leave this woman totally unsatisfied. And if you have sex with someone again and again and again, and you never get satisfied, well, that's cause for a little bit of nervousness and irritability. And, they said, well, there must be something wrong with her. And they called it hysteria. It wasn't hysteria. It was not being satisfied sexually, sort of being left high and dry every single time. So women would go to the doctor, and it was so funny. He would put his hand under her skirt and he would rub her clitoris vigorously. And then she would have an orgasm. And then he would say, okay, well, I'll see you again next month. And then she would come back next month and he would do it again and again and again until they figure it out. It's not hysteria. It's her husband's not taking care of business at home. But in the meantime, before they realized that, the doctor was spending a lot of time rubbing that clitoris. So he invented a vibrator that vibrated the area and got the job done considerably quicker. All right. Now, today, vibrators come in all shapes and sizes. They come as an egg. They look at like a bullet. They can look like an alien creature. The bottom line is they are a phenomenal tool, and they are actually recommended by sex therapists for women who have never achieved an orgasm, or for a woman who has difficulty achieving orgasm. They are certainly not a replacement for a real live loving partner, but they definitely are a nice accessory to have, and they are a tool to add intensity and variety and vibration to your body and to bring it to a wonderful climax. There's one more tool I want to talk about, and it's called a French tickler. And the only reason I really want to bring it up is because there's so much misunderstanding about a French tickler. French ticklers look like a condom, except they have a very funny head at the top. It could look like a creature from another planet. It could look like a flower. It could have an animal head like a dog or a dolphin or a cat, or you just never know what's going to be at the top of a French tickler. But the rest of it is worn down his shaft. And so the part that is the decoration, the head, actually goes inside the vagina, but only to the bottom third of the vagina, so that those nubs and that texture will rub up against the G-spot. Now, there's very little stimulation in this for him because it's a very thick rubber that actually covers the most sensitive area of his penis, which is the head. So he's doing this for her to help her get off. Now, once she's had her orgasm, or 2 or 3, then he takes the French tickler off. You cannot have a French tickler on the penis when there's time for thrusting, because you will rip her apart if you thrust inside of a vagina with a French tickler in. So these are just some inventions that have been around for a long, long time to enhance the pleasure of sexuality, to add to the benefit of the sexual play, and to give people more options to enjoy a monogamous relationship without having to go outside and find their excitement elsewhere. Don't be afraid to try them out. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If anyone has any questions, it's always my pleasure to answer those questions. And if you don't want to ask them now, the email address right there, ypi69@hotmail. Send me your questions, and I will be more than happy to address them. Thanks so much for joining me. If you got any kind of benefit from this particular episode, please tell your friends about Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. for your pleasure and mine to do it. Thanks so much for joining me. See you again next week. Namaste. Do your Kegels. Bye for now.